On a Well-Her Network on Zingo TV, channels 250 and 251. Zingo TV is a free app that can be downloaded on iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure to rate and leave a comment. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire and Fire Sticks, Roku and Roku Sticks, and all TVs 2016 and forward. Live Now is a show all about finding the synergy and body-minded spirit. Please join us as we tackle intense topics of conversation that will spur your mind, steer your soul, and give you some direction. With that said, we are excited to dive into tonight's topic with you.
Hey everyone, this is Chuck Hogan, and please welcome my amazing and beautiful host, Veenu Keller, tonight. Welcome to Live Now, where you get to hang out with us and we get to share some information with you. So tonight, Veenu and I were chatting about some topics. And you know, it's that time of year, we're a couple weeks into 2024. And by show of hands, how many of you, and you know this, and we can see you, although you think we can't, how many of you created some resolutions or you decided you were going to do some stuff this year in 2024? Yeah. How's that going so far that you're 2 weeks in? Have you stayed committed to the gym and not eating sweets? Are you moving your body? Are you feeding your mind, feeding your soul, feeding your spirit? Veenu, what have you been talking about with some of your clients?
Definitely that. Like what we prioritize is what we accomplish and what we do.
Outstanding. And so that is the big question is like, how do you prioritize? Because a lot of people talk about this, right? It's like, oh, well, this is important to me. This is a must right now. And I go, okay, great. How's that working out? And I don't know about you, Veenu, but I've been like speaking to some folks and I was like, okay, how's progress? And they're like, slow. Huh? Why? Because knowing these people, they're doers. They are entrepreneurs. They're movers and shakers. And anything that they put their heart to, they get to. So I started asking them a couple questions. And I'd love to get your take on this because I know you're someone who has a high level of prioritization in her model of the world because you're a busy lady. You got a lot going on. So my first question was, is it important to you? Like, do you really need this? Or do you just want this? And they go, well, what's the difference? And I go, oh, huge difference. I need air. I would like to be able to breathe more freely. I need water. I need sustenance. I need food. I need nutrition. I want it to be healthy and nutritious. Okay, so what's the difference? Well, if you're continuing to feed yourself junk food when you want nutrition and what you need is actually to fuel up, you're in odds with yourself. And it's only for one reason. You haven't prioritized what your needs are. And so did this start off as a bunch of wants or likes or coulda, shoulda, woulda? It would be great if. So I wonder, what are some of the questions you've been asking of other folks that when you're encountering this type of situation? I'm curious.
So for me, I ask my clients, what's their why? What's fueling them? You know, like you said, we have that need for food and water and air. And my next question to them is that if we need that, what is the quality of what you need?
That's a beautiful distinction.
You know,
at the end of the day, quality is everything, right?
Right. It absolutely is. And then asking what has to happen first, like find an order in life.
Right.
You know, I know a lot of my clients, what has helped them is create a morning routine. Nice. Because they don't have enough energy. And when they don't have energy and they're tired and they're lagging, I mean, I was even feeling that. I was like, oh gosh, I'm so tired today. You know, there's something like what's going on. And then what I check in? I check in with like, how much water did I drink? You know what? I didn't drink my water today. You know, what's the quality of food? I had pretty good homemade quality food, not preservatives or anything like that. So you know what? Tomorrow I'm going to prioritize my water. So what do I need to do to prioritize my water? I need to make sure it's filled up today with the zero water container that we have because mine is empty in this office. And I need to make sure I have my cup in here ready to go because when I have it and I prioritize that, I know that I have it throughout the day and I make sure it's a must. So that's the other thing is our priorities become a must. What must happen in order for?
Yes. in preparation, right? I mean, if we commit to this, when we commit to this,
Right.
then we get to plan. We get to set up some standard operating procedures. And people go, oh, he's going into the business mode. No, this is in life. You have a priority if you're going to shower. And if there's no shampoo, no conditioner, no body wash, no loofah, no razor, no nothing, and there's just water, and I go, well, you've got a major component. But it's probably, unless it's a Jerry Seinfeld episode, you're using like the Elephant Washer 2000, which will blow off every ounce of skin you have, then you probably need other things and stuff to accompany it to have the experience that you're looking for. See, oh, please
I
go
was
ahead.
gonna say, I think the other thing is like, what are the non-negotiables? Like for me, as you pointed out, I'm a busy person. So I have kids, I have my business. And so when my husband, he travels in his work. So when he's gone, my number one priority is making sure my kids get to school on time. That is a non-negotiable.
Yep.
So if I have clients that are generally scheduled at the same time my kids have to be to school, guess what? I look at it. What's my priority in my mind? It's my kids. And then I reschedule that client. I'm like, hey, can I push you back 30 minutes because I have to get my kids to school? My clients are very flexible with that. They're like, absolutely, because they can respect the priorities that I have in my life. So number one, the priorities come from what are your non-negotiables? What must happen? And that is where I see people start to procrastinate in life. And when you have procrastination, you start to stumble upon a new habit of the going to, like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, instead of it's done. And I even noticed with my kids, they got into a pattern of, oh, I'm going to. And I'm like, no, 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 no. There is no more I'm going to. What I want to hear is, yes, it's going to be done this time.
I love that. It's we converted it over to when I,
Mm-hmm.
because now it's like, well, when I do this, when I be this. And so part of it is state management. There's a lot of folks, to your point, they haven't prioritized them being an important facet in this entire thing called life.
Right.
And so that oftentimes they're actually working from a comparative relationship to self, and that is, well, I'll get to it. And then it's a compared to what scenario. And it's like, oh, well, compared, my kids are more important than my clients. It's like, well, family first. You have a priority schedule, and it's like this takes precedent over everything. And I was reminding someone the other day, and I said, there's levels of relationships. And one is it good for you? That's the primary, it's a single question. If you're looking at spiral dynamics, it's beige. It's like the lowest level. And it's like, is it good for you? Then 2, tribal. Is it good for you? And I'm just going to make it levels of relationship. Is it good for you and someone else? So if it's good for you and the twins, is it good for you and Brian? Is it good for you? And then there's level 3, which is it good for you, good for them, and good for everyone else? And I go, wow, that's a win-win. And to your point, rituals help create this habitual nature of managing expectations. So when your needs are being met, your health and vitality, your sleep, your hygiene, it's like, I don't know if you want to be going and having interpersonal meetings with folks and you haven't had a chance to brush your teeth or do your hair or look as kempt as you might like to feel when you're having an engagement with someone. And some people go, I don't care. Right. They'll show up in a hoodie and glasses and they're like the Unabomber. It's like going, okay, why? Because they'll have a conversation and they're really not concerned. They go, I don't need to be flashy for someone. Said it's not a matter of being flashy. Because for me, a priority is respect.
And it's self-care. It's self-respect, right? Again, it goes back to what your priorities, and it's because, I work with a lot of families, a lot of kids, and it's the kids can't get up for school, but the moment they have a birthday party or a camping trip or skiing or going hunting, it's amazing. It is absolutely amazing that they can get up even an hour before they normally get up.
They're inspired. You're like going,
there's a drive in them, right? There's that drive, and that drive becomes a priority. It's a priority to have fun.
Someone was saying, I make it a priority when it's urgent.
Yep.
And I go, oh. Well, if you forget to do things and you're not exercising self-care and now it's become an urgent situation because now you require medical care.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't taken the time to nurture self and care for yourself. So now stress, hypertension, blood pressure, everything is at apex. They go, oh, that's an urgent situation. I go, yes. So what do you do? And they go, oh, see a physician, pop some pills. I go, oh, now I'm going to start working out. And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. So is the stress level the result of not living in a life of your prioritization and self-awareness? So I'm going to actually leverage a different perspective. So let's offer everyone a reframe right now. What if self-realization actually allowed you to connect to self so that you could actually recognize what priorities you get to select?
Right. And I like that reframe of the priorities I get to versus the priorities I have to.
Because
Because
the difference, right?
yeah, I don't have to take my kids to school. I get to take my kids to school.
It's a privilege. As
Exactly.
you said, those conversation times when you're in the car, those valued 5-10 minutes, and you're going, oh my gosh, that was brilliant. What a great check-in. Why? Because there's no other expectation at that time.
Right.
You're together, connected, and conversing. I go, that's beautiful. And part of that too is catching ourselves in our own self-awareness. It's like, am I thinking about other stuff, things and stuff that I need to do during the course of a day? Or am I present and I get to engage with my children?
I'm going to tell you, my husband loves when he's home. His favorite thing is picking up the kids from school.
Right.
You
You
know,
mentioned that before.
and I remember I was telling him, I'm like, I know you're busy. I'm so sorry. Let me figure out if I can rearrange something. I'll go get the kids. He's like, no, 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 no. No, 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 no. I will go get the kids. And I'm like, what? He's like, it is my favorite part of the day.
Yep.
Picking up his children, spending that time, hearing about their day,
Yeah.
Running them around, being at their practices, not my favorite part of the day, but I'm glad it's his.
Well, and you and I had this conversation before with my kids. If it was martial arts, soccer, anything, it wasn't the fact that they were playing soccer, or doing martial arts, or going to band. I loved being with them and connecting with them and having these conversations. It was some of my favorite time. And I
Right.
think part of it goes back to the legacy of when I was a kid. And even though my father was in the military, and when he was, away on different, sorties and we'll call them expeditions, when he had his papers to go to different areas. When he was home, it was sacred time.
Right.
And that's something that I'll never forget. I still tear up every time I see someone coming home or they surprise their kids, because I remember being that kid and having my dad show up at school in his dress, whites, and you're like going, whoa,
Oh,
like
wow.
that was like magic. Where'd you come from? And what if in setting our priorities for self, we could get, as you described, that excited as a kid who's waking up on Christmas morning?
Yes.
I'm like, how the heck do you get up at the crack of dawn when for the other 364 days out of the year, you didn't give a flying flip, not even on your birthday? You're like, it's my birthday, I'm sleeping in. It's
Right.
like, what? And then all of a sudden, Christmas morning, you're like, oh, hello, let's go. Where's
Right.
breakfast? Hey, I heard Santa. And it's like going, you're 16 years old. What do you mean you heard Santa?
Right.
I was like,
Again, it's priorities, right? It's like what drives them, what pulls you. And you and I've talked about this before. It's that magnet. It's that magnet that pulls you towards it, not pushes you towards it. When you have something that pulls you towards it, it becomes now a priority.
And there's a different feeling.
Correct.
It's like you feel full. You feel like and I love what you just said, and thank you for that, my sister. It's an invitation. It's an invitation. So now you don't feel like it's a have to. And in fact, it's not even a get to. It's like, I just want to. I really have committed myself to living in that space of gratitude.
Right.
No, it's interesting. Someone asked, and Jill and I just celebrated our 36th, if you want to call it wedding anniversary, time together from the time we met to now. And it's like, wow, time flies. And I go, what is it now that makes it so special? I said, well, we've prioritized each other. She's traveling with me on trips when I'm in a hotel room. And so what's great now is that it's not a have to, it's a get to, and I sure as heck want to. And in
Right.
fact, I'll go a step further. I need to. It just creates more fulfillment and happiness. And this leads to the other side of this, which is okay, once we've determined what a priority is, and here's how you'll know, by the way, it'll be less about the negative or trying to move away from something, and it'll be the draw to Venu's point of feeling engaged and involved and the opportunities in something.
Right.
Because you'll do more to avoid pain than you'll do to give yourself pleasure. And the consequence of that is, though, is that if we're constantly trying to avoid, deviate, deflect, because where focus goes, energy flows. Your reticular activating system is literally that radar dish. And when you start pointing it towards something, it will pick up on everything and not the stuff that you're looking or prioritize as a need. It will start to prioritize the things that you are trying to move away from.
Right.
And that's not pulling you towards anything, that's pushing you. And almost to the point where you can feel resistance, because it's not a great feeling.
Right.
And you'll even hear when people go, oh, so what was the shift for you? When do you start to enjoy it? They go, I still don't enjoy it.
The other thing I just want to add also, because I am in the family space, is our kids learn to prioritize when they saw us prioritizing,
Yes.
when we made them a priority. And one of the things that I discuss on many platforms when I'm coaching and when I'm speaking on stages is that we model for our kids. And, I've had some families say, well, I mean, my kids are a priority but my work is too, and I give my work 8 hours. Do I need to give my kids 8 hours? I said, no, it's all about the quality of presence you give your kids.
Yes.
Because if you are spending absolute 100% presence, your phone's turned off, you're not, the TV's turned off and it's just you and them, and you guys are talking and you're being fully present with them, they're going to soak that up. They're not going to know you didn't have 8 hours with them.
Oh,
they're going to really know that you made them a priority. I know that, one of my good friends, her niece, I got the opportunity to stay at their house, and they have, 4 kids, and they both work. Their family is a priority. And because they have such different schedules in the evening and dinner's not always together, they do their morning devotionals. Like, everyone gets up early, they get dressed, they all come to the living room and they do morning devotionals. And that's how they choose to spend their time. So they're always going to have that. And I'm thinking about, like, when their kids grow up and they have children, guess what? They're going to prioritize their kids too, because they have grown up being a priority in their family's life.
I love that, Veenu. It's interesting you say that, because I was just thinking about, what about the paramount question of who are you working so hard for? Well, what do you mean? For my family? It's like, whoa, 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 whoa. So you have no problem putting in 12, 14, 16 hours a day for work for your family. Yet if you were to ask them what's more valuable to them, you being a successful working person, or you being a loving, caring mom or father or friend or observer at their recital, at their engagements, at their sporting events, there's no question in my mind what they would prioritize.
Right.
And for them, kids sort very easily. So why? What is it about adults? What is it that most people engage in? And it's this rational mind. This, if I just work harder, if we just have more, if we just are able to take more vacations, we're able to afford more things and stuff.
I just learn one more thing, then I will.
Oh, it doesn't mean putting it in practice. It just means if I learn one more thing. It's kind of like going, if I just buy that piece of gym equipment, and I go, yes, and it will sit there, just like the Peloton, just like the treadmill, just like the lateral trainer, and they're amazing clothes hangers, but they have not been burning belts up because of activity.
Right.
And so it's like, oh, well, are you hating? It's like, no, just pointing out. It's like a gym membership.
I also put out there to even my kids, don't make somebody or something a priority when you're just an option.
Yes.
And what are we, if we kind of look at it differently, is what are we making a priority and what are we making just an option?
Definitely. Well, and to your point again, why? It really comes back to this emotional center, this gravity, if you will, of being grounded to what is going to create that cornerstone for this foundation.
Right.
Because if you're on rocky ground, slippery ground, if it's muddy, if it's quicksand, I go, okay, you'll do what you need to do in the moment to get temporary relief. That's not a permanent solution.
Mm,
And so, what people do out of freneticism or out of trauma or out of immediate response to mitigate a situation, I said, is not the same thing as prosperity, health, thriving, growing, and prioritization. Because if it's always that you're putting out fires, when are you enjoying your life?
right.
And, oh, my life is one series of brush fires after another, and I'm like, wow, I'm sorry, Fire Marshal Bill. I didn't know that that was actually a real existence. I thought that was just a character on In Living Color. And the truth is, for some people, they've modeled that ideology. And in fact, they're so proud of it, they go, that's what I do. I'm the fixer. I'm the cooler. I'm the one that brings the voice of reason. It's like going, to whom?
Mm,
Because you may think that you're the one that is fixing things. And the truth is, you might be offering a very casual diversion in the moment. You
mm.
might, and I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying it could just be from an observant point of view that you're giving such an alternative option that it looks way more attractive than the pain that they've been going through. But it's not a long-term solution. So is priorities when they're being met an instant gratification scenario, or is it a cornerstone of values and belief systems that we can build on that actually gives us more stability where they become rituals and habits?
Well, and what are we also teaching our kids are a priority?
Mm,
Is it because kids do learn from us?
sure.
And, I know that school was a priority to me as a kid. My mom always says, you got one job to do, and that's go to school. That's all you got to do as a child is go to school. So I knew from the get go, school was a priority. I have used that same statement to my kids. You don't have a lot to do in this world, but school is it. Give it your best shot,
And
and we're going to support
isn't
you.
it interesting now, my sister, that they're saying that most companies will not be requiring you to have a college degree in order to be employed by their company?
And yay, because how many people put all that money into a college degree and they're not even using it, and they're making more money, and they're doing more great in the world.
Sure.
And you know I mean, I don't know, I'm educated, like I have a degree, and
Understood, but you and I grew up in a different time. It was a
we did,
calling card. And
because
now they're saying that
that was
doesn't need to be the
priority.
calling card. In
That was
fact, they said in 2024 and 2025,
mm,
45% of all companies will be loosening the requirements of having to have a BA or a BS in order to have gainful employment.
good.
And when they started looking as to why, they said the street smarts, the common sense, the hunger, the drive. There are some people that the modern education system, and I'm not here to get political about educational environments right now. I will just say it's become commoditized, monetized, and we just had a graduate from college, and I know what his college tuition bill looked like. And it was like, holy freaking guacamole. And then I'm going, for what? He has a piece of paper that says he has a certain level of skill in education and opportunity. And I go, brilliant.
Now
What's
what?
on the other side of that? And I go, he still needs to go find his occupation and career. And they go, oh, but didn't college prepare him for that? I said, aspects of it, but not in its entirety. It
Mm-mm.
didn't go out and say, this is the best place to go to job forums. This is the best place. I said, the education of home ec and how to fill out a check or even apply for credit or do these different things. I said, that's not taught anymore.
No, it's not. It's not. And again, so as parents, we have an opportunity to teach our kids what priority looks like. And here's
Mhm.
what I tell my kids: it's not just you getting educated where you are not, you're literate. You're actually literate. You know how to read and write and speak proper English, and well, so to speak, because God knows what proper English is nowadays. It's BRB, I think. Um, and and with that, they're learning things such as accountability. They're learning things as when you start something, you finish something.
Yes.
That when you get it done, you turn it in. And I tell people, and people on my show might have heard me say this, that this is our boot camp from the time they're born to 18.
Right.
What do we want to install in them that's going to help them win their future? What are the rules, the values, the priorities that we're installing in them? So when they go out, I have a client, that you also work with, and there's no urgency. There's nothing pushing him or even pulling him or gravitating him to do anything. There's just nothing there.
Right.
And when we think about it, when I listen to the parents make excuses. The parents like, well, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Then it's okay that he's like that. Then what's the issue?
Well, that's part of the challenge, right? Is that it gets to a tipping point where in their model of the world, the triggers are, the indicators are, so the prognosis is. And I go, well, what if those triggers weren't there? Would you still have the same prognosis? Because what they're dealing with is effect, and they're not dealing with cause.
Right.
And so when we go soft, when we start to lower the standard, and people go, oh, I want to be my kid's friend. And I go, whoa. Okay, big daddy. Okay, sweet mama. No, this is, you're the parent first.
They don't need another friend. They don't. They can make another friend. What they're not going to have is another parent.
Exactly. And to your point, setting the precedent of what that engagement looks like and feels like. So your kids and my kids all know that they're loved. There are times when they don't feel very self-loving. There are times when they are very judgmental of self. There's other times when they're very loose with themselves. And you go, wow, how can that pendulum swing so far to the left and so the right? You're so critical in this one area, and you're so, I'll say, footloose and fancy free in this other one. And it's like, whoa, I mean, this is night and day. And yet I'm reminded, they're not done cooking.
They're not.
So if at 57, I'm not done cooking, as my wife calls me, I'm a slow simmerer, apparently. And it's like, it's taken a while. I'm still raw in the middle. It's like, okay, then what is required? And I said, consistency is key. And there's this very unique acronym that our brother Harry Singa uses, and he calls it home. So if you ask the universe for anything, it's going to deliver to you. But if you're not home, you're not there to receive it. And he goes, the H is very simple. You need to honor yourself and others. And it's something that's so lacking. It seems so easy to talk about, but it truly is lacking in folks. Go, oh, I honor everyone. I go, that's not true. Because you're not honoring self very much. And then it's like, well, what's the O? And it's like, well, O is others. And what does that mean? We get to really understand what they need in order to feel full. To your point, it's not what we perceive that they want. Oh, they want another thing. It's their birthday, it's Christmas, it's Easter, it's whatever celebratory day that means a lot to you, but it may not mean anything to them. But we've made that imprint on them. Yeah. And then it gets a little bit more dramatic because the M stands for manners. Are we communicating in a polite, loving, kind way? Or are we managing and manipulating?
Right.
And it's like, ooh, but I'm the parent. They're supposed to listen to me. It's like going, well, no, you're the parent when it's convenient. Because you just said there's nothing that's imperative. So why should there be any drama? Because we've lowered the standard to the point where, hey, we're just going to flow with it. We're just going to flow with it. I go, till what? till something dramatic happens, and it's all of a sudden, how could you do this? Well, they did it because they really like experimenting.
Right.
And there were no guidelines. And then this is my favorite part, Veenu. And part of our Asian cultures, so he reminds me because he's from his family's from India, and so he goes, it's Auntie G, it's like Veenu G, and so what does that mean? Like the G is a sign of respect, it's reverence. And then he said, so in energy, if that's a higher elevation of respect, he goes, where did the inner come from? And he goes, he finally found out that there's a definition for ENER. And it actually means that it is the required commitment to actually achieving and fulfilling all of your dreams.
Mm.
And so when he added enter to G, and he goes, at the highest level. And that energy that we talk about is emotion is energy in motion. It's like going, aha. And it comes back to that fundamental, which you asked so brilliantly in the very beginning of this conversation. Why? Why? Why is this conversation even important about priorities? And it's like, because there's this tendency for people to make commitments on the fly. Because what are we taught? Oh, just try it on. If it works and you like it, then do it again. And I'm like, okay. Well, the first couple times I did like real heavy working out and conditioning, I won't tell you that I liked it. I won't tell you that I loved it. I'll tell you that I struggled through it.
Right.
And now it's become part of my lifestyle. And people go, why? I said, because the results, the reciprocity, the eating cleaner, the drinking hydrating with water, the moving body, the fulfillment of spirit, the education of mind. It's like, this starts to create a whole different level of needs within me. Because when your needs are being met at the highest level, your wants shift.
Right. I want to just kind of shift this over to, now that we've talked about priorities, is how do we get people to prioritize and, keep the commitment to that priority? Mm-hmm. And here's one of the things that I said, even as an adult, find the fun in it. What's the one thing that we're consistent in? Like, what keeps consistency is when we're having fun. We don't want the day to end when we're having fun. We lose time when we're having fun. It's figure out how can we make it more fun.
Well, and attach value to it. Mm-hmm. So I was speaking with someone and they go, I hate having my hair colored. This was a female, friend of mine. She goes, I hate coloring my hair. She goes, but I like the results.
I'm the same way.
She goes, I look younger. I feel younger. I go, okay, great. If it makes you feel better about you, I'm not going to criticize or judge it. There's no judgment here. And she goes, yeah, but I complain every time I have to do it. And she goes, and then I do it and then I just feel better. And I was like, okay, great. Then really remember how it feels to feel better about it.
Right.
And understand that the cost or the currency is the half an hour, 20 minutes, whatever it takes for you to do this, or have someone else do it for you.
Right.
And I was like, wow. So to your point, how we create prioritization is actually almost as simple as how we create success in business.
The value.
You schedule it. You freaking schedule it, and then you commit to it.
But what makes us schedule it, I think to your point, was the value we add to it. It's my hair, because I'm not big on going to get my hair color either. However, what is my desire? It's the results. Like, I don't want to be gray right now. I don't want to be on stage with gray hair. I don't want to be presenting with gray hair. So getting my hair colored is definitely a priority. I make that priority because of the value I'm going to get from it. And so because there's value in it, I schedule it.
And you just hit on something. There's an identity that you created to that person.
Mm-hmm.
And so if it's celebrity, if it's stage presence, impact, this I'm not going to call it a persona because it's not something you put on. It's actually your identity. And I go, that takes on a whole different precedent. Because now when you go as a speaker, as a presenter, as a author, as a, I can go on and on and on because I mean, my God, you have accolades out the wazoo. And so the point in being is that there's an identity that's attached to that. And I go, that's another way of increasing priorities. It's like really getting clear on who's showing up. We talk about this. We go, okay, if you're going to RPM your life, then great, start with a purpose, head in a direction, but you need to cultivate that identity. And part of that is remembering who you are and why.
Goes back to that why.
It all comes back to why. I love what Simon Sinek says, and he's very clear on this. He goes, you know what? I'm going to make it real simple for you. Your why is who you are. Now, if you don't know who you are, now we need to start talking about identity, because holy smokes. So what do you believe? Your belief systems, your values. Why are they important to you? So now you start to find out why someone is the way they are. And it's like, I know it sounds, you all are like probably rolling your eyes in the back of your head and go, we know this, Chuck. We've gone through this, Chuck. You're like, okay, Veenu, make him stop. Make him. And the truth is, no, because we're all like 3-year-olds and we're constantly trying to search for this why. You will come up with some temporary solutions, or even more so, and I've been guilty of this, a story as to why we are feeling this way about our why.
Exactly.
It's like, wait, what?
I think emotions play a lot in this too. And again, the urgency of like, if something has to be done, like deadlines, like how do we prioritize our business? It's what we're facing. The deadlines that we're facing is what becomes our priority. I'm working on my event at the end of the month. So everything else is put a standstill because everything is about marketing and getting this to the right people. And, my team and I were talking today. I'm like, nope, forget that. Like right now, this is the priority. And it's funny because I use that word. So that's all we've been working on is remarketing, conniving what we need to do better. Right. And so the next 2 weeks, it's all about this event. And then after that, we'll have a new priority. We'll have a new schedule because it's like, what's next? That's how we do business. Yes. But how do we prioritize our life, our personal life? Are we looking at what is important to us? And again, what we value and what's our identity. So going to work out, proper nutrition, good water, like water is just not water anymore. No. You and I grew up in a time where we got locked out of the house until the sun came out, until the sun went down. And if we were thirsty, there was a water hose. And if you couldn't find a water hose, go to your neighbors, right? Like that's the water that we drank. And now time is different. We're not telling our kids to drink out of water hoses anymore. We got filtered water. There's different things, but we also know more about our bodies and what our body needs. And so the more we know, the better we can do.
Yes. And I love that you said that. There's this simplicity can create a whole lot of happiness. And so I love this question, and it's a dear friend of yours and mine, and she asks this all the time. And the reason why is because people go, well, if I don't do it, then it's not going to get done. And then she'll go, and what if it doesn't get done? Mm-hmm. What happens? Does the world stop turning? Do you stop breathing? Do you turn back into a pumpkin? And I was like, well, ooh, that's rude of you. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Could you pick something more sexy than a pumpkin? And true story. And so she started laughing. She goes, seriously though, if it doesn't happen exactly the way that you planned it, what's the worst that can happen?
Right.
That you made progress, that you moved forward, that you feel better, that you're more flexible, that you're more happy, that you have a few more shillings in your pocket, that you're closer in your relationship, that you have more spirituality and fulfillment.
Or you just learned something.
That's
the worst case scenario. Worst case scenario.
World forbid that you had some fun.
Right.
And you smiled and you celebrated and you danced around. You made a geek out of yourself. She goes, not a far stretch. And it's like, you know what? That's a great point. Because the world, we live in such a judgmental society right now, Veenu, and you know it. We see it, social media. Oh my gosh, how many likes, how many TikTok followers, how many friends on Facebook, And I'm like, oh, for the love of Pete, how many followers? And it's the craziest thing. You'll pull someone up and someone I've never heard of. And they have 4.8 million followers. And you're like going,
What I miss.
Daddy.com has 4.8 million followers. And who is this person? I'm the purveyor of truth in the conservative world. And I'm like going, okay.
Well,
or the opposite. I'm the liberator of life, in the libertarian. Okay, that's great. And I'm like, I've never heard of you. I don't know who you are, yet you have all these followers.
Well,
and then go ahead,
I
please.
want to just say this because you said it too, fun. I mean, I remember, I committed to go to the gym, and I wasn't, I get the gym membership. I'm going every week, 3-4 times a week. And then it's like 2 times a week. And all of a sudden I'm realizing, why am I not stopping? And it's more than just not seeing the results right away, because you're not going to see the results in 2 days of going to the gym. And one of my clients who's 15, she says, how do you make it fun? And I'm like, what? She goes, how do you make it fun? And I'm like, well, I don't know. I said, how do you make it fun? She goes, oh, I have the best playlist. The best playlist.
Yeah.
And I'm like, huh. And so I started bringing my music in there with me and turning down the video so I can't hear the lady talking. And next thing you know, I'm like, I'm done. Like, my 15-minute HIIT exercise is done. And I was like, wow, again, how do you make it fun? If you make it fun, you'll make it sustainable.
Well, and this goes back to a conversation we had a long time ago. How do you need to feel most often? We have an old associate, and that was his primary question. Mm-hmm. How can I have even more fun now? Presupposing that his life is fun. Now, if you were to meet this person, you go, yeah, they're kind of upbeat, but fun? And so here's the other side to this. Is it congruent with who you really are? Because there's some people who will put on a different persona. There's actually a process called the New Orleans flexibility drill, and people will literally see the characteristics in someone else and then run a emotional adoption program where they'll go, oh, if I just act like them, I stand like them, I breathe like them, and I go, I'll become them. And I go on, you do you, boo-boo. Doesn't mean that you can't find aspiration and inspiration from someone else, but trying to copy someone else, their identity, then you start to sacrifice and lose your own. So this is really about understanding your needs, being true to yourself and authentic, having that honor and that self-respect while honoring others, while in manner, exercising a ton of energy. And all of a sudden, it's like your kids will see the example of this. And not because you're doing it, because you're living it. Mm. Kids have the best energetic barometer of any being, including dogs, by the way. Kids will pick up faster than anyone else. And they will call you out on your stuff. How quick, Veenu?
Very quickly.
Because they're like going, because where's the filter? There isn't one. They learn that as they get older, because now it's about how do I appease others? And if I am too verbose, if I am too opinionated, then they may not like me. So I will quell myself. I will lower my volume. I will make myself smaller to fit in. And what we're saying with priorities is it's actually the opposite. It's actually honoring yourself to such a level that you make room for everybody else, because now your space is full.
Right.
And you have so much more capacity to carry others when you're feeling full.
Yeah. So again, what are we prioritizing? What are we making it a must? What's our non-negotiables in our lives, in our kids' lives? You pointed out something in the beginning of the show, is that many times that you talk to people, I talk to people, it's like, what are you working for my family? Mm-hmm. But what is your family missing? You, yes. And I mean, and I know this as a single mom for many years. I was a single mom for 9 years, raising my 2 boys, working 3 jobs to make, ends meet. And my kids will still tell you, my mom never missed a field trip.
Yep.
My mom did not miss my games. The only time I had to miss games is if I was going to the other boys' game, right. And it was the same time. But like, I showed up for them. And that's to this day, they're 29 and 25, and they remember that. They remember that mom showed up on the weekends,
Yes.
to our games, because
Well,
I made that a priority. Even though around all my jobs and stuff, I couldn't get to practices and stuff, but for the games that they were playing in, I made it a priority. Like that was what I had to be at.
and there's something to be said about living in your congruence, where you as a mom, you as a professional woman, you as a caregiver, caretaker, you have very high standards. It's something I've always admired about you. And I would say that I have loved seeing your progression and flexibility as well now too, because the non-negotiables have all of a sudden become somewhat negotiable.
Right.
And people go, oh, well, Chuck, it's like, no, I applaud people who can find the flexibility, because there's some rules, and I'll just say there's some distinctions around human behavior. One is the person with the most flexibility wins. How often? All the time.
All the time.
But there's a presupposition to this. The person with the most certainty and the most commitment will always have the highest level of flexibility.
Mm.
And I'm going,
They'll find another way around it, right?
They always will. That's and they believe in this unprecedented skill of resourcefulness.
Right.
So to your point, it's not about being right. Priorities aren't about being right. It's not about having high standards or keeping high standards. It's really about something else, and that is making sure that you are not just following the science to success, but the art of fulfillment, where you actually feel compelled to be connected to something at a higher level. So that way it feels so great. And again, we use these terms and we don't mean to sound loosey-goosey, but if progress equals happiness and what feeds progress is possibilities, the minute you feel that your possibilities are shut off, that the glass ceiling is on top of you, or that you're being caged in, you will panic. And in that panic, you will compromise. Oh, they're yelling, the kids are upset. Oh, they're unhappy with me. And it's like going, okay. So is you giving in what's going to serve them and serve you? It may be a temporary relief because you're like going, oh, because here's the deal. Is my need to be right more important than my need to be flexible?
Right. And I just want to add some more strategies to our listeners tonight is like,
Please.
when you're looking at like, what do I prioritize now? After hearing Veenu and Chuck tonight, what are my priorities? Start with the life wheel. Like start looking at your health, your finances, your relationship, your career, your socialization. Like start with all those and start with like, what does a 10 look like for you? And if you're a 5, what has to happen? What's the first step that you need to prioritize to get to that 10? It's not about New Year's resolution as we started this off. It's about what are you committed to for yourself, to honor thyself. And I love that you say this, that you can have a best life, but when you're being the best you will have a best life, right? Something to that terms. But what has to happen for you to be the best you? Like just start there when we're talking about strategy on creating this.
And celebrate your progress.
Yes, 100%.
Millimeter or a mile. Some people go, oh, to your point, hey, I worked out 2 days in a row. And you go, great. Do you feel different? I'm a lot more sore. But I can see, right? I can see that this is engaging me in a different way. And it's like, awesome. So celebrate the soreness. Celebrate. People go, okay, really, dude? It's like, listen, that means there's progress. That means you're alive.
Right.
When you stop feeling anything, that's when you need to be concerned.
Right. 100%.
Because a life of neutrality is no life.
I agree.
I love these conversations with you and the ability to be able to take some pretty complex, information and make it more digestible. In closing, what would you say to someone that if they're going, okay, first steps? What's one or two things?
I think the first step is be curious and not critical. I always say that. Be curious. Be curious of what's next. Be curious of what you want. And don't be so. And then the second thing is be flexible. Don't be so rigid, knowing that things are going to flex and flow to get what you want. And when you say what you mean and mean what you say.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for that. And I'll leave you with, if you're going to be loving to yourself and others. It's not just loving to everyone else. There is a tendency for us to negate self when we feel that we're not deserving. And if that's the message that you're going to send, that will permeate to the ones that you love the most. So let's make sure that we are letting go of the preconceptions and the notion that you don't deserve happiness, and neither do they, because it couldn't be further from the truth.
Absolutely.
So, my sister, I love you. I always appreciate you and thank you. I love our Monday nights together.
I do too.
Please hug Brian and the kids, and just know that we give you nothing but mad love and respect. And hey, y'all, till we get to see you next Monday.
See y'all next Monday. Bye.
Bye-bye now.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Live Now with Veenu and Chuck Hogan. Follow us on Instagram at Veenu Inspires and at Chuck Hogan Now. For more about Veenu, please visit VeenuInspires.com. And for Chuck, please check out YBLNow.com. This show can also be heard on Spanglish Radio Network. Please check out SpanglishWorld.ca for all your news and programming. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it.